So Salwa Kadri has been the official program and office manager of Rashid Mosque for the past 15 years. Alongside this work, she has been collecting and archiving thousands of pictures and biographies from Muslim communities across Alberta to create a community library for future generations. She is an avid community work volunteer, working to feature Muslim artists and sits on several steering committees to address domestic issues in Edmonton. Most recently, she has been working with seniors to finalize a traditional cookbook for cultural events. Salwa is the first Muslim woman in Alberta to achieve a funeral director's license in Canada, and she's now working to finish a multi-faith funeral guidebook for grieving families that she has been documenting for over 2 decades. So thank you for being with us here today, Salwa, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting us. Thank you for including us in Paint the Rails. When I first heard about it, I was so excited. And we were just eager to jump in and be part of it. There's so much to tell you. I don't know where to start, but I'm going to go for it. The Paint the Rails, first of all, the project, when I saw what they came up with, the design, they looked at settlement and the fur trading, and you can see it looks like a spider coming out, and it resembled the settlement. And when you think about it, these people, the people that came from Syria, which is known today as Syria, Lebanon, most of them were Arabs, and they came from where food is grown all year. And to survive, they had to look for work, and being part of the fur trade was part of their work. And I think that's what that big fur that's hanging out there really wanted to resemble. Is these people came, they had no English, no Cree, no French, and they were young men. Young men, I think what I read is a lot of parents preferred that their young sons flee and find new land because they didn't want them to go to the war. So I was looking at some of the history, and you can see the Abu Shadi family came in 1906. Hamdans came 1901. The Awad family was in 1908. The Terabane family in 1909. And they do date back to 1987. And they were saying that there was some Scottish converts that came to the land too. And from there, this is where they found their establishment, was here in Edmonton, and going north to Laclabish and Fort Chippenway, and where the fur trades were. So the land was part of their survival here, is to find work. And it was so interesting that I found that some of the settlers that did here, some of the Arabs that came from Syria, Lebanon, opened up some of the first toy store. I think the Hamdans did that. The first barbershop school was opened by the new settlers from our community, and it flourished from there. So you can imagine somebody leaving the Middle East, arriving in Western Europe, and then from East, I believe it's Western Europe, and then from there landing somewhere in Montreal, Halifax, finding themselves all the way in the prairies, where the harsh winters, like the winters are harsh right now in 2020, 21, 22. Imagine arriving in the early 1900s in the prairies, where they're probably still using wood stoves and stuff like that. So they learned Cree, they learned French, they learned English, and they became a community on their own. Now, moving to 1936, I believe, they started a need to get together, because people feel comfortable with people that come from where they come from. They decided that they were going to open up some kind of community center or some kind of hall for cultural events, and to get together the families that were in Edmonton. And I believe at the time there was a program that would help religious organizations set up, churches, mosques, and they took advantage of that. And the mayor did help them. Some of the lead organizers to help with this project were women. And it was Hilary Hamdan. There was Maria, Awad, And there was other ladies involved, and they led these projects by this project to build Canada's first mosque. So it would be a cultural need, a religious need, and they would all meet there. And you got to remember in mid 1930s, there was very little people here in Edmonton. So downtown, everybody knew everybody, and everybody helped to build this little mosque. And so it was finally opened in 1938. Then it was opened in where Victoria High School is right now. When the city wanted to expand Victoria High School in 1946, the city came to the group of Muslims that were operating the mosque at that time and gave them the land where Royal Alexander Hospital parking lot sits today. And they moved the mosque from Victoria High School to Royal Alexander High School. And that mosque sat there until 1982. In the late 1970s, the community grew. The culture started to flourish. It was more people. It was people from Africa, people from Pakistan. They were coming into Edmonton. And I believe a lot of people had said it, some of the stories that I've read, when people landed in Montreal and in Halifax, and they were, you look for your own people, you look for your community. People were saying, go west, go west. That's where your people were. So the mosque actually attracted more Muslims because you want to be closer to your faith. You want to learn about the country in general, but you probably would feel more comfortable learning it if somebody was there that understood you. So I would say that the mosque definitely attracted more Muslims. And this is why we have a really big Muslim population. And I was reading that the Muslim population doubled from 2001 to 2011. In 2001, there was almost 50,000 Muslims here in Edmonton and in Alberta, with northern Alberta. And it doubled from 50,000 to over almost 115,000 in just a short 10 years, from 2001 to 2011. In 2000, probably today, probably well over 120,000 in Muslims. That's a general number everybody's using. I'm not sure. There's a lot of reports. Some say 115, some say 110, but I'm going to go with the higher one. That's 120,000. So of course, like when they approached about Paint the Rails, they had to have that aspect of the settlement. And I see that the train, there's a guy holding a suitcase, no, like a hat, suitcases on the train. And then there's hands where people are meeting. And then there's a little fur on the top. So this was big. Part of establishing the mosque was these people that were settling here. So in the late 70s, the community just outgrew that mosque. They outgrew using it, the prayer service, the cultural events. Then they had another opportunity. The city said, we can expand Royal Alexander. You guys have a land here. It was big in the northwest of Edmonton. So the mosque did not move there. We built a brand new center. Now, the first settlers were Arabs, and their legal name was the Arabian Muslim Association. But when they moved the center in 1982 is when they first opened the door here, the new center that we have, they established the name the Canadian Islamic Center because it was more diverse. And then the old mosque sat in Royal Alexander parking lot for approximately 10 years, up until 1992. And then the plan was to go ahead and expand Royal Alexander. What they did was it was going to go through a wrecking ball. It was facing demolition. So remarkable people. And again, it was women that wanted to save the mosque. They advocated. Of course, the men were there to help them and support and do all the hard work probably, but the initial the initial idea came, we can't let the mosque go down. And it was the same people that helped build the mosque. It was Hilwi Hamdan, Laila Fallman, Soraya Hafiz. She arrived here in the probably early 80s or 70s, and they advocated night and day. And they took the mosque to Fort Edmonton. And at that time, the cutoff, I think, was 1936, and the mosque was built in 1938. So they had a lot of hard work to convince that the mosque belongs in Fort Edmonton. So today, the first mosque in Canada sits in Fort Edmonton. I hope you guys all get a chance to go visit it. And then the new center here right now, the Canadian Islamic Center, and the name was always Al Rashid Mosque. That was also a trade name. Al Rashid means guidance, or the guided, the one that guides, and which is a perfect name because I've seen it grow. I've been to the old mosque. I was young, and I grew up there. And then you see yourself coming to the center. They purchase a cemetery to preserve our Islamic traditional burials. They opened up the first Arabic school in Canada. Soraya Hafiz actually created a curriculum that is still, some of it is still used today at the University of Alberta. Laila Fallman was an amazing educator. She was an intellectual. We were all having like so much influence of great people, like educated people. That Laila Fallman was born here, but Soraya came from overseas, Hilwi came from overseas, and these people did things because of determination. They found a need, they worked at it. And all these three ladies, by the way, they all have schools named after them here in Edmonton. It was amazing to see this happen, and how they were acknowledged for their services to the community and to the community in general. They volunteered their time. They got they participated in focus groups. They never said no to any educational piece that was needed in the community. So as culture flourished in Edmonton, the needs were growing. So of course, that Arabic school right now has turned into the Edmonton Islamic Academy. It's one of the largest private schools probably in Canada, if not North America. And that the doors opened on 2011 and 2001. And fast forward, like things were just, no, the school opened 2006, I'm sorry. But in 2001 was the actual fundraising. Hey, we need a school. We have way too many kids at the mosque. We're renting space all over the city. We need a home for our kids. Today, so the doors opened 2006. Imagine 5-6 years, the community raised almost $11 million to build the school. This is a community project. Imagine that. And they said, we're going to build it. Nothing's going to stop us, because if we don't build it now, it's going to cost us maybe $100 million to build later. So let's build it now. And they did it. Then we're going to go fast forward to 2011. And 2011 was a big year for us too, because that's when they celebrated owning the school. They had no more debt. They decided that they were going to now expand on the needs of the school. We expanded on scholarships. We expanded on social services. We expanded on the seniors programs. They went into enhancing more youth programs. So it was really, really nice to see my community grow in Edmonton. And in front of your eyes, when you see this progress, you do take it. I don't know if you can take it for granted or not take it for granted, but it would be like weird just to come in, oh wow, they have this, they have this, they have this. But when you start with nothing and you see something grow, it's it's a real achievement, and I feel really good about my community. I'm proud of my community. When we were asked to be part of Paint the Rails, it made sense to me because we we were worried at one time when I officially joined the organization as a full-time volunteer back in 2000 and probably 1998. I was like thinking to myself, wow, we need this. Well, we could use this. Like, and this is why I got involved, because I felt like there was so much need. And then today I feel good, like stepping back and saying, okay, you guys got so much to work with, you know, go for it. Like, you know, and even the youth and the projects that they have, I don't see the grit in the youth that I saw in the adults in the 1990s. Maybe there's too much distraction these days. You got your iPhone, Netflix. There's so much online. There's so much to do. There's so much deals out there. Holidays are a big thing. God forbid if we don't take a holiday. But if you have so much to work with, there's so much to do. And if you actually do more work within the community, you will see where your need is, where you're needed the most. I would feel like the youth of today, they find what makes them, what is important to them, and they should focus in that area. It's hard to focus in 5, 6, or 10 areas. You should find where you're needed the most, and I like that. If I find a group of kids and they're doing something important, I truly love to do anything that I can to help them support it, whether it's volunteers or money or resources or space or anything, because it's important to support each other. And just because it's not a good idea, it doesn't mean it's not a good idea. Just because it's not your idea, it doesn't mean it's not a good idea. It's an idea that's important to someone. So if somebody does ask you for help and you can't, maybe you can help them navigate who can help them, or maybe you can navigate them to find resources, volunteers, but don't, or even attend the event, at the least attend the event, or buy their book or whatever. So looking at today, I would really like to see more youth building on what has been established. Now that they have the environment and the infrastructure, now they can enhance the programming, the services. And it's so nice to see so much youth out in education. We have so much social workers that have come out in the past decade, so much teachers, engineers. And it's so nice that if you can take some of your talent and your education and and come back to your community and see where you're needed the most. So I told you about some milestones. We told you about Paint the Rail, and the big news is next year is our 85th anniversary. So Al Rashid Mosque has been established for 85 years. They were registered in 1941, but back then you didn't have to be registered until you felt like it, I guess. But they did open the doors in 1938, so we're going to go with that date, and we will be celebrating 85 years strong. If there's something out there that we can do for 85, I need to know. So please let me know. If there's any questions, please let me know. And so a little bit about, yeah. So our contributions to Edmonton would probably be our diversity. The challenges in our community, I mean, after September 11, it's obvious the Islamophobia. There is a lot of it. I mean, we didn't have to wait till September 11 to know that it happened, but people need to understand that the first and the second generation that did come to Canada were very strong people. They faced things back home. So when they came here, they're like, okay, we're just gonna, there's we have protection here, we have rights, we have a constitution, we're just going to ignore ignorant people, because they are very tough skinned. Like, I know from my parents, they couldn't be bothered if they were told to go back home. They couldn't be bothered. But then you look at the generations. I'm looking at my kids, 1, 2, 3. My kids are 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth generation, and their kids are fifth generation. They don't know any other home. So they're a little bit more sensitive when somebody does tell you to go back home. They're like, well, we don't know any other home. But people like me and then my parents and the elders, when you get back home, oh yeah, home. Thanks for reminding me. I miss home, I miss my culture. But now we've adapted a Muslim Canadian culture that that you are a little bit more sensitive if you're told to go back home because you don't know any other home. And we need to address this. One lady told me, one by one, stop, let people know why I wear this. They ask a question. If they're rude, you know what? Have a nice day. Just mind your business, move on. Some people are like that. I don't know. It can escalate. And I'm hoping that people can step up more in a way to paint the rails. Like, this is an excellent idea. It's a great idea to show the culture and the diversity and to involve the schools. That's amazing. It's an amazing project. And, you see in the movies, you see the graffiti, you see, and you look at some of the artwork, you're like, wow, that's great. That's not graffiti, that's art. Now we have it here in Edmonton. I would love to see bus tours take students on the train, like just wrap around the city and show the diversity. I love the world religion classes they've been putting in. I love the truth and reconciliation. This is wonderful. That everything is just coming into place, and it takes a lot out of somebody to like say, hey, I want to be part of the good.